Welcome to ComputerKeyes tutorials. In this video, I will show you how to create an interactive PDF form in KeyesOverlay that can be submitted to a kLink server for processing on your IBM I. Interactive PDFs contain editable fields such as text fields, checkboxes, digital signatures, and submit buttons to send entered data back to a server for processing. I have already created a non-interactive document in a word processor and imported it into KeyesOverlay so that we can add the interactive fields. I would like to pre-fill these particular fields. So I have printed the values for a sample user into a spooled file and imported it into the mapping tool. There are other tools that can create interactive PDF forms, but KeyesOverlay can easily pre-fill fields with data that we already know about each user. I've selected field mapping mode and cleared out all the fields so that nothing will print on the form from the spooled file. To make pre-filled fields, I simply select data from the spooled file and export it into the interactive tab. I want this field to be up to 40 characters long. I can use the Shift and arrow keys to change my highlighted selection if I don't get it right on my first try. The order of the fields in the interactive tab will be the tab order on a finished PDF. I can change the order of the fields using these up and down arrows if needed. In the Display All section, you can see it adds the fields that I created in the position they were printed in the spooled file, which is close to where I need them, but not exact. I can reposition all of the fields at once by unanchoring all but the first field. This way, the unanchored fields beneath it will follow the first when I move or change it. The spacing in the spooled file was smaller than what I need, so I'm changing the vertical spacing to plus 41.5. I simply measured the height of the box to find this number. I think it will look better with a slightly larger font, so I'm changing the size up to 14 point and the font to Helvetica. That looks pretty good. Now let's add some checkboxes. Be sure to select the last item in the interactive tab so that the checkboxes fall beneath it in the tab order. We can draw directly on the Display All screen and press Export to create other interactive fields. I'm selecting Checkbox from the menu. I've made a copy of the first box so that they are identical, and they are currently in the same position. I can move the copy down to the next line by adding 16 points to the vertical spacing, because these selections were written in 16-point font. Now I can copy the second box over and over again, and the plus 16 will move each one down to the proper line. You can pre-check a box the same way I pre-filled text fields by exporting the data from a spooled file, or constant data can be entered into the text field up here. Any non-blank data will pre-check the box. I'm selecting last box so that the next fields that I add will appear after it. When creating non-pre-filled text fields, notice that the length defaults to 80. The length is the maximum number of characters that a user can type into a field on the finished PDF. Next, I'm going to add a digital signature and a date field. I'll set the max length of the date to 12 characters. We can pre-fill text fields with constant data by typing into the text attribute. Let's make the date field required text. And while we're at it, set the name and phone number fields to required as well. We could stop here and send people this form. Users could fill it out, save the PDF, and email it back to us. Or better yet, we can provide a submit button to have the data sent back to an interactive PDF server with one click. We need to provide a URL for it to submit to. Adobe has a paid service that will compile the data from submitted forms, but we want to process this data ourselves. We can have the data sent directly to our IBM I by using a kLink server. If you have kLink, the URL would be the name of your computer, followed by the customer server port, which by default is 18946. Then the name of the program in kLink that receives interactive PDF form data, which is cgi-bin/klw-brw-cus. If you plan to receive more than one type of form with your kLink server and require that the server respond differently to the different forms, you can add a hidden field to your form containing the form name. This information will be sent back to the server with the rest of the data, but it will not be printed on the viewable part of the PDF. You can export the form name from a spooled file or hard-code it into a text attribute, then just change the type to hidden field. The form is now finished. Here's the PDF that is generated by your IBMI. Users can fill out their data. This box is pre-checked the way we created it. Remember that we set this field to a maximum length of 80 characters, which is more than can fit on the screen at this font size, so the PDF automatically shrinks it for me as I keep typing. Clicking the Submit button will send the data from this form directly to the URL that we defined for it, which in this example is going to our kLink server. Here's the data that kLink recorded, compiled for you in a simple format so that you can process it however you want. When it comes to distributing your forms, KeyesMail can handle the personalization of the PDFs and email them out to your users. Alternatively, our products can place the interactive PDFs in private directories on your IFS, where they can be securely retrieved by your users when they log into your kLink server. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out the other videos on our channel, and you can visit us at ComputerKeyes.com.